How's it going, everybody? Today we are going to be taking a look at the Hollywood Rack Sport Rider SE Hitch Bike Rack and looking how it fits on our 2021 Ford F-150. This is going to be a 2-bike platform style rack capable of supporting up to 80 pounds per bike, which is a lot for a hitch bike rack. So you can definitely get a couple of e-bikes on here if you'd like to, but we do have a primary contact point of this frame hook here in the middle on our center mast. So if you want to use this with your carbon frame bikes, I'd recommend against it because we do make frame contact. Although they are padded, we are still pushing down and could potentially damage our frames while we're moving. Because the hooks do have the ability to go up and down the length of that center mast though, it should be able to accommodate most of your alternative frame style bikes. And the weight capacity will let you get e-bikes on here as well, like I mentioned. And we have a strap at the front and the back tires just for a little bit more security. So we do have a handful of features to check out in this video, starting with the fact that we do have the ability to tilt the rack away with the bike loaded up. To do that, first thing we need to do is pull this clip out on the side. I like to push back on the rack just a little bit to pull that pin all the way out. To tilt, all we need to do is pull this top lever. One downside of how it's built is the fact that we don't get a ton of tilt. It's not very aggressive at all, but I'll get this pedal out of the way as much as I can. And this is probably actually going to get more in the way. So in any case, it doesn't tilt very far, even if that pedal was all the way down. If we have a tonneau cover, now might be a good option to grab some things that you have if they're stored towards the back of your bed. Otherwise, that tilt doesn't do a whole lot for us, to be honest. But tilt it back up into place, and I'll replace this pin. Again, might have to lift up and down on the rack just to get that all the way through, and then the clip on the other side. And now we can get the bike removed. To do that, I'm going to undo this strap here in the back first. Pull that out. Do the same thing with the strap here at the front. Both of the straps do have a nice rubber pad in the middle to protect our tire while they're on there, which is nice. And now we'll move up to our frame hooks here. Unfortunately, they do not come all the way off, so we just need to press these buttons to release them all the way up. And as you can see, both of those buttons do have a metal lock core built right in. If you lock those up, you won't be able to press the button, and your bike will be locked onto the rack. But the downside of the fact that we don't get to take those hooks all the way off is that we also can't lower the center mast. So with our pedal in the way, we sort of just have to work around it and kind of tilt it out of the way to get our bike all the way removed. And now our seat is also being stuck by that center hook. So wasn't the most pleasant, and realistically that's an issue that you're likely going to run into when you're getting your bikes on and off with that center mast in the way. But while I set this aside, we can take a closer look at the hoops or the cradles if you'd prefer. So the way they're designed, they are able to support a tire width of 5 inches, so about as wide as we can go here. And on the trays, we do have the ability to loosen these up and slide them up and down to accommodate a wheelbase of up to 60 inches. Put the strap away as well, and we'll get the center mast down and out of the way. To do that, we're going to have to pull this pin out, which we do have to line up with the notches on there. You might be able to see this top one a little bit better. There's a notch built right in there, and there's a notch on the pin, which we have to line up. But with that out of the way, we can fold it down, and now we just have to line that up to replace it, and we'll get a couple measurements. So for all the things that it can support, it really doesn't stick out very far. I'll get that measurement from the bumper to the furthest point out. In this case, that's going to be 28.5 inches. It's really not that bad at all. Ground clearance is probably going to be at the bottom of one of these cradles here. That's going to come in at about 25.5 inches. As high as you're going to have to lift that heavy bike, if you choose to use it, is going to be closer to 29 inches. So there's a nice rise in the shank, and our F-150 sits tall enough that I'm not going to be worried about anything bottoming out, going up hills or over curbs. If we want to though, I can fold this rack up towards the tailgate to save even more space. So to do that, we're going to pull the top one and then the bottom one. We don't have to pull that pin and clip out like we did when we tilted it up. And now we'll get a couple more measurements to see how much space we've saved. So from the bumper to the furthest point out now, it's going to be about 14.5 inches. So we cut our distance about in half, and it doesn't sit very close. There might be a little bit of up and down movement here, but nothing to where it's going to make any sort of contact with the back of the vehicle. From here though, we can take a closer look at what this is going to cover up on the back. So it doesn't sit super tall. Our backup cameras are going to be all the way up here at the top, so we have plenty of room to see up and over our rack. You might be able to see just the top of the rack out of the bottom of the camera, but it's not going to be too bad. Our license plate is down here in the middle, kind of the same thing. From another car, you're definitely going to have windows to see it. From straight on, it might be a little bit obstructed. One thing to point out though, is that depending on where you put your wheelbase and where the cradles are, they do have the potential to extend past the side of your vehicle. In our case, they are not, but if you don't want them making contact or bike-to-bike contact, you might have one further up or further to the side. So to get that maximum wheelbase of 60 inches, the cradles do have to be able to go along this trays quite a bit. From here though, now we're going to take a look at the shank. So we have a 2-inch shank that fits into our 2-inch hitch receiver. It's held in place by this pen and the lock core that's going to be key-to-like to those frame hook locks we talked about earlier. It's all secured by this anti-rattle handle here. Just make sure when you tighten that up, try to leave it sideways or upwards so that you're not cutting down on that ground clearance. So overall, the Hollywood Racks Sport Rider SE is kind of a lot. It's definitely not the easiest thing to work with all those points to pull to make sure that it folds down and tilts back up. But it is really robust, able to support 80 pounds is a lot. 60-inch wheelbase and 5-inch tire width right off the gate. So if you have two really large bikes and you want to get them where you need them to go, this is definitely going to be a solid option. Again, this was just a quick look at the Hollywood Racks Sport Rider SE and how it fits on our 2021 Ford F-150.